Blue Mountain region provides some of the best apple growing conditions in Ontario. With its close proximity to the cool waters of Georgian Bay and the microclimates of the Niagara Escarpment, it's the ideal location to grow fruit. After the initial townships were established in the early 1800s, the first orchard of just 2 acres was established by Richard McGuire.
You have people like the Marshes, the Mitchells, the McGuires, all M's, you know. 1830s, 1840s, they come up here. My ancestry came up here in 1861, I should say, be more precise. 1870s, 1880s, they began to see the temperateness of the climate, and they began to plant orchards.
By the 1870s, over 450 acres of land was being used to grow apples in the Blue Mountains area. Today, nearly 3,000 acres are used for apple growing in the Blue Mountains, with a combined total of over 7,000 acres through Grey County and South Georgian Bay, making it part of the largest apple growing region in Ontario.
My history, family's history, go back to 1920, and everybody had a small orchard in those days, and that was my grandfather, and then my father, and then myself. So this is actually my 41st year of growing apples.
Several apple growing families operated in the Blue Mountains. The whole family would be involved with the apple harvesting process.
Well, you had to be careful. You had to twist them a certain way just so that the stem would come off the branch. Otherwise, you could yank them and bruise them.
The family businesses required the best apples, and early accounts trace seeds arriving from Quebec.
There were so many carloads from Georgian Bay fruit growers, so many carloads from the Thornbury cooperatives, and most of them would go to England.
So when I took over the operation, there was probably maybe 20 acres that we're producing. Presently, we're approximately 300 acres.
You have 3 kinds of apples, you know. You have show apples. They're the precise, pristine apples. Then you have peelers, which they're kind of run-of-the-mill, and but they peel those for apple pies and for sauce, applesauce. And then there are grounders, and grounders, of course, are for juice. And you know, they have the odd bug, and that creates the flavor.
Early apple presses offered small batches of juice utilizing a belt drive motor and a small apple feeder. Mechanization enhanced this process with large plants such as Golden Town Apple Products processing millions of apples weekly.
At one time, 40% or more of apples that were grown went into either juice or peelers or something like that for a processing byproduct. Well, when you're doing something like nearly 1 million liters, let's say a week, it can't just all be consumed in Ontario. So we were sending something like 5 tankers a week down to Minute Maid down in Florida. We did all the apple juice for McDonald's on the east side of the Mississippi, Canada and the States.
Modern apple orchards provide a higher density of apples per acre. New types of apples such as the Red Prince have also been introduced in the area.
My husband's grandfather bought the first 10 acres. They had trees planted at 200 trees per acre. Great big standard, traditional type, romantic looking apple trees. Provincial standards right now are probably about 800 to 1,000 trees per acre. In 2001, they planted 1 acre of high density trees. They used Mutsu. They put in 2,500 trees per acre, which was even more than what they were doing out west, but given our climate's a bit different, they decided to go with that. And it worked incredibly well.
High-density apple orchards resemble vineyards, with apples growing in hundreds of thin rows. This method allows mechanical platforms easier access to the apples during harvesting.
There's a number of young growers that have gotten into it in a very serious way, and really promoting the modernization, going to high-density acres, so that we can take advantage of mechanization more and more, using mechanical working platforms that are self-propelled, self-steering, going down the rows that people can ride on and be lifted to different elevations without using any ladders.
Apple consumption is changing in many ways, such as in the use of apples in alcoholic beverages. The Blue Mountains is host to the Thornberry Village Cidery.
The cider was made here since 2007, and it just exploded from there. It is fermented for 4 weeks and aged for 4 weeks, and then it's put through filters to take out any impurities. And it's a nice, dry, crisp, clean taste. So it's definitely, you know, the traditional style.
This tasty apple cider has won numerous awards, including a gold medal at the Canadian Brewery Awards.
Well, cider, people can afford to pay a higher price for the juice. I was getting maybe the equivalent of 25 cents a liter. Later on in the season, a little bit higher than that. You know, cider, well, you can see what it costs for a liter of cider or half liter of cider is considerably more than, you know, 25 cents.
The cider is something that I've thought about for quite a while. It's something that is a nice side venture, and we're only up and going for 8 months now, so it's time will tell, but it looks very, very promising.
The apple industry in the Blue Mountains is experiencing growth, modernization, and new use. Over 2 million bushels of apples are harvested annually in the region.
No, I wouldn't say it's competitive. Of course, competitiveness is human nature, but no, it's like a big family. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody network together to overcome whether it be growing issues or insect disease control, or just the horticultural practices of pruning and training trees.
When we first started, nearly any apple went into making apple juice. During the period of time I was involved, it became very crucial to be able to analyze and to document every load of juice that went out for Brix, acid, any residuals, any possibilities. I think in the future, it will be that the growers or every apple coming in will have to be documented.
I can see more automation coming into it, definitely more use of computer technology to help with your crop and to indicate, you know, when you need to thin your apples, when you need to, you know, put product out in the orchard to prevent diseases and pests and things like that.
The future of the apple industry is bright in the Blue Mountains.